Personal Appeals.
Right, John Donchis, 559 Minor Street. Just a couple things on the budget that I was looking at, and probably would ask for clarification, or if you could, I guess, explain some of the things. Just quick running over it in my eyes on the revenue side. We had about a total of $500,000 over what we budgeted for in all the categories of the first thing.
John, when you say we, who are you referring to?
As far as the papers.
John, when you say we, who are you referring to? When you say what we budgeted for, who are you referring to?
That the council budgeted.
Okay, yeah, you're not a part of the council.
No, you're right. Yep, it's the council budgeted about $525,000 more than we actually got. We got more than we actually budgeted, so that's a good thing. But some of the things that I have that were a concern for me would be the trash collection stuff.
What do you mean when you say trash collection stuff?
That would be the revenues versus what it actually cost us in expenses. The refuse revenues were $138,000 in 2009 above what we actually get charged for them. And 2010 was $217,000 more. 2011, $218,000 more. Total roughly just a nose of $575,000 more than it cost us.
Has anyone ever addressed that issue with you before? I know you've asked this question numerous times. Has it ever been addressed to you before?
It doesn't matter. I'm just bringing this up now.
Can you answer my question? Can you please, I'm the chair, can you please answer my question? Has anyone ever addressed that issue with you before?
I'm not ready to accept any questions, please. Let me finish. It doesn't matter. That's what we find, and I'd like to have this explained. Because, again, because of this baseball stadium at Emmaus Community Park, that was going to be the front money to pay back.
I don't appreciate your speculation.
Please,
I'm in charge of the meeting, not you.
I
Understood?
have the floor. I have the floor now.
Not for long if you keep it up.
I have the floor, please. The money that the county was going to give us had to be fronted first. And this was the fund, according to Craig Neely, that it was going to come from. We're overcharging
which fund
the people.
Which fund are you referring to?
We're overcharging the citizens from the refuse fund. The refuse fund.
There is no such thing as a refuse fund. Are you speaking of line items?
The general fund revenue.
So now you're speaking of the general fund.
Refuse, health, solid wastes. And refuse bills, I don't have my glasses with me here, but I'll ask the young gentleman here to read that number for me. First one right up there. 364.319.
So you're talking about the revenue from the refuse bills paying for the stadium?
Yes.
And the discussion's never been had, never would be.
364.319?
That's not it.
That's not it.
No.
You got 1 minute, so if you got more questions, get them done.
364.300? Is that what you're discussing?
No, stay at the podium. Stay there.
.300. Okay.
Hurry up with your questions. You got another minute.
.300.
Please have patience.
I have a meeting to run. You get 5 minutes of it.
And
The rest is my
interrupting
time.
so much.
It's my right. I run the meeting, not you.
I have the floor. When you give it to the floor, you give it to me.
I'm glad you make the rules and not me.
I don't appreciate being interrupted all the time. You're taking my time away.
Absolutely. I want to get this meeting on. So give me your questions and we'll answer them.
The
I don't know what they
questions are. We have all this overage, and we're still going to do it again
John,
this year.
who's we?
The council has...
Okay, John, you're not part of the council. Please don't refer to us at this table and you as we.
I'm sorry for the mistake.
Thank you.
Council has again adjusted the trash, that is going to be probably another potential overage charge, unless the charge that we pay is going to be going up. That I'd like to have answered, I guess.
The refuse
So-
bill amount has not changed.
All right, then we're going to be overcharging the,
Oh, I'm sorry.
It has changed.
okay. That, if you could please explain
Yeah, it went up.
all those.
Oh, because of
5%.
What we're paying.
Yeah, what we're paying.
What we're paying.
Out.
what we pay,
Went up
what we pay out
5%.
went up, and now what we charge the residents.
Correct.
It's gone up by
Our
about
bill to
30.
the company has gone up 5%.
Correct, but not his bill. Not the resident's bill doesn't change.
Correct.
Okay, in other words, we'll still be overcharging the general public.
Well, now, when you say we, are you referring
Council will
to?
be overcharging the general
There you
public.
go. From now on, please get it straight.
You know what I mean. So.
I'm not
that's good.
accepting what you mean and what you're saying. It's two different things.
Okay, but indeed, from Neely, that was gonna be the money front to get this thing done. I don't
You're
appreciate
misrepresenting.
overcharging the general public for something that
Okay.
you're not even gonna
Can
use
you,
for
can you
it.
please just go directly to the questions that you have so we can
I-
answer them? Because your 5 minutes are pretty much up.
I
So
might
I'm
not
going to
even
cut you
have-
off
I
soon.
might not even have to.
I'm going to cut you off soon. Your 5 minutes are up. That's what you get. So if you have direct questions, ask them. I'll
I'm not
answer them.
gonna take abuse anymore.
Thank you.
Okay.
You understand what I'm getting at there?
Yeah, I do. He's
The amount that the borough brings in from the residents compared to the amount that we pay out isn't an equal number. It never has been. It's
And
always
it
been
is an
done.
estimation.
And there's other expenses that go into it that
I understand.
are dealt with.
Just because you pay out the contracted fee doesn't mean that's what you pay.
That's what we have to charge the
And
residents.
there's 3 different rates a person can pay, and we don't know which rate they're gonna pay.
So I'm not sure what the question was, and there was never anything said
Well, let
that
me-
said that the difference would.
Yeah, let me
would pay the
just
state.
indicate to you guys what just happened in the last couple weeks. We received our bill from our collector, and Christine had brought it to my attention that it went up by 5%, which is 30,000.
We were paying $88,363 a month, and it went up to 91 something, I believe.
Yeah, so you multiply that by, so about 3,000 times 12 months, we're looking at a $36,000 increase. Now, that's just that's an estimate, that's a ballpark, that's without a calculator in front of me.
Right.
What we did was, we wrote them a letter, and we paid the exact amount that we paid last year. Thank you. So where'd it go from?
We were paying $88,363.
88,363.
That number I know.
And the new
The
one was,
January bill, I think was 91 something.
so just for argument's sake, we'll just say 91,000. So the difference for the year would be no less than 31,644. What we did though was, thank you very much, Chief.
No, you can keep going.
What we did was, we paid exactly what we paid last year with a letter attached, because our contract says that, increases were based on, the CPI, the fuel index, they do a calculation based on that. After looking at those indexes, I did not see anything, and Christine really didn't see anything either, on where the justification of the 5% increase came from. So we sent them a letter saying, you will give us an explanation of why it went up by 5%. And if we find that, that is true and accurate and acceptable, then in our next bill, we'll pay you the difference.
Very good. So put it on them to justify the expense instead of accept it. And that was a very good thing to do. I think that's right. I think that's done what's in the best interest. Any questions related to the trash? It's just the way it's always worked. I don't believe that Mr. Neely would have ever said that the difference in the amount we bill versus what we collect in trash will be used towards funding a stadium or upfront money or anything of that sort. Just so everyone's clear, I don't believe that. Okay, I've got a whole list of things we need to get through, and I'd like to start with the natural gas supplier.
Yes.
That was a good one, Mr. Pepe. I know we had a cost reduction.
Well, and actually, your memo that I gave you is very much outdated. I first of all, I want to thank Christine for her work with this, because she's done all the legwork with this. So thank you very much, Chris. I gave you guys a memo last month
January
January.
23rd.
for us to discuss this opportunity. What has changed is Glacial Energy has put out a fixed pricing term that I personally would highly recommend that you give us the authorization to contract this week.
Okay.
They are putting out a fixed rate of 0.414.
Wow, drop.
Not only did it drop, but it takes the potential of savings from $2,000 a year to $4,700 a year. And that to me is worthy of us locking in that price.
Absolutely.
And it's a 12-month fixed price.
Okay.
So it's not a variable, which means no matter what we're paying that price.
What happens at the end of the 12 months then? Do you have something in there? Because sometimes they roll in
This would be a 12-month term.
just a 12, then
Yep.
they renegotiate.
Yep, this is telling us a 12-month term. They do have a 0.447 fixed adder term as well, which I don't think we're interested. That product controls what the energy supplier can add on. I don't think we're interested in that. I think we just want to keep it at the 0.414 and go from there. That rate will protect from any price increases. So right now we're paying what 0.638 per CCF. So here's the latest printout Chris gave me. If you just want to see it, I'm sorry I didn't print out copies.
Oh, no, we don't need copies.
This just came down in the last couple of days. I guess what we would be asking from you is, like I've talked to you before, I'm still learning where my boundaries are here. So normally I used to just be able to say, let's go with it. But since this is a 12-month locked-in thing,
I
coming
think
to you for
I would assume this council prefers that it goes
Yeah.
through committee generally. Then
this is only locked in until the end of this week.
okay.
Actually, is it even to the end of the week? They give us 7 days from the 24th. So
29, 30. Tomorrow's 29, 30, 31. You'd have till Friday.
yeah, so this rate would be locked in until Friday. So I guess we would be asking you to give us the authorization to book this as early as tomorrow if we could.
And I very well think we should. I couldn't see not. It would be silly not to save that kind of money, and there's no repercussion for doing it. It's not like in the back end they're going to jack up the price on us or anything. We're in 12 months. And someone want to make that motion?
And at the end of the 12 months,
Then we'll have to renegotiate. We'll have to renegotiate with
Yeah,
them or someone
and the
else.
nice thing about this is, just like your energy supplier, you contact like a broker type of person, and you don't pay them a fee; they get paid by the companies.
Right.
So we basically got 3 or 4 quotes before.
Mm-hmm. You had 4 quotes before, and you're considerably less than any of those.
Yeah,
quotes now.
and Glacial dropped again. So
Sure.
so at the end of the 12 months, we just do the same thing.
Okay. Someone want to make that motion? Authorize the contract?
I'll make it.
I mean, unless you guys feel that we better wait and have the full council.
something they'll know better than I would. I'm new here, so I'm not sure what.
I'm okay with it, Mrs. Gilbert. You tell me your feelings.
It doesn't matter one way or the other, we're on a time.
We're on a time crunch,
here,
and you don't
but
want
We do
to.
have a special meeting Thursday at 4 o'clock,
Okay.
so I don't know if you want to bring that at
Yeah,
that point.
can we-
That's right. Can't.
Oh, because what it's advertised for.
It's a
Oh, that's
special,
true, it's special.
special meeting specific agenda.
Yeah,
Okay.
all right. No, I'll make the motion that we authorize it now.
Thank you.
So
Second.
Second it.
Thank you. Discussion?
No.
All those in favor? We have 3 ayes. Go for it, Mr. Pepe. Thank you. Thank you, Christine.
What are you doing to save money?
That's a lot of money, Dave.
It
We'll
is,
just go there.
4,700.
it's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
Thank you very much, Chris. I appreciate
Absolutely.
I appreciate your legwork on that.
the EIT changes from Allentown. I know we're in opposition in theory to the process that played out. I also know that we really have no say in the process, and I don't know if we have any numbers yet of reality.
You really don't, but I have a memo that I didn't sign yet. It's in Kathy's inbox. You'll be getting because you probably had that what the heck was that moment when I explained it to you the other day at the council meeting. What is he talking about?
That was a lot to take in.
Yeah, and quick. What I did was I gave you probably a 2 or 3 page memo basically detailing what happened at that meeting and what it really means to us. I have a copy of the memo, which I won't really read to you, but let me just give it to you in simple terms here. Bottom line is, the state of Pennsylvania in 2009 passed a law that was very specific to Allentown. They passed a law for a municipality between 100,000 and 106,000 people, or something along those lines. There's only one city in Pennsylvania that fits within those guidelines, and that is the city of Allentown. And what it did was it designed this neighborhood improvement zone, okay? And in this neighborhood improvement zone, specifically, they are building a stadium. And in a number of other theoretical projects that, quite honestly, they haven't really thought through yet. This is, I think, what is going to be the most important thing for you to see. That is the map from the City of Allentown's website, okay? And you'll get that in your bins. You can go on their website, they have a little bit of information, but that is the highlighted map of the area that the zone covers. Bottom line is, no matter where you work in Pennsylvania, except for Philadelphia, which we'll talk about that in a second, you get taxed at 1% for earned income tax. That tax comes back to the host municipality where you live. So I work in Emmaus, I get taxed at 1%. So, you know, with my salary, $800 a year goes back up to Nescopec Borough until I move to, you know, Emmaus or whatever town I move to, then it would go to that town. And if that town collected 1.3%, then my employer would have to tax me at 1.3%, and that would go back to them. This new law says that if the employee works in anywhere in that zone, which conveniently I found it funny that, you know, like there's little squares blocked.
Yeah, I see
Yeah.
that they pick.
They picked up like major employers.
Of
correct?
course, yeah. I mean, that's what it looks like. But if you work within that zone, then the city of Allentown keeps your money. Now, when I say the city, it doesn't go to their governmental operations. All right, it goes into this fund that the Pennsylvania Department of Revenue is holding with this redevelopment authority. The neighborhood authority, whatever they want to call it, to pay for the debt services for this project. Okay, now this is going to be for 30 years. Now, I threw out the number $30,000, and let me give you, and I told you it wasn't an educated guess, it was kind of a look. In theory, I quite honestly think $30,000 is not a far stretch, and here's why. If we had 60 people from our municipality working in that zone, and they each made $50,000, that's $30,000. I don't think it's a stretch to say that we have 60 borough residents, especially considering we have a majority white-collar community. So I don't think by any means it's a stretch to say that we have 60 people from our municipality working in somewhere in that zone. Especially with PPL located there, and a number of other offices, including, heck, I think even the county offices over there. There's 96 businesses located within this area. $30,000 is a significant amount of lost revenue, and it only takes 60 people at $50,000 a year to lose $30,000. So that's why I said, I think with our closeness to the city, with our our white collar workforce, I really do think we have every bit of 60 people probably.
Well, the arena going up and all the waterfront projects, sure.
Yeah. Now, in that memo, I also put in there about it is going to create theoretically 1,000 construction jobs
Right.
and 200 permanent jobs, and there are benefits to the area for this whole thing, but directly affecting our local government, it has a negative impact. The other thing that I talked to you about was another issue, and that's called the Philadelphia, they call it the Superfund tax credit. Nate Brown is a perfect, you sit here and think about this idea. Nathan Brown is a perfect example of somebody who works part-time in Philadelphia a couple days a week and then works in Emmaus a couple of days a week.
Right.
And, and Nate Brown and I actually discussed it. He actually gets taxed the way that we feel they're supposed to. If you work in the city of Philadelphia and you're from out of town, you get taxed at 3.5% for your EIT. That money stays in Philadelphia. We don't see a dime of that. What's going on though is the people that are doing that are coming back and claiming a tax credit, saying that the other 3 days a week that they work in Emmaus or whatever else, they don't need to pay their 1% to us. So we're losing out on potential revenue. They believe that there's $300,000 to $500,000 that could come back to the Lehigh Valley. The issue, though, is that DCED won't take a position on it, one way or the other. And, of course, there are some interest groups that really don't want DCED to take a position on it. So what these tax collection committees are going to do is file a joint litigation from the 8 counties and file it against DCED to force the Commonwealth Court to make a ruling on the legality of people being able to do that. Ultimately, it would go to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. It would take 2 years. The attorneys, of course, feel that it's worth the time, effort, and money to do it, and we could possibly see some revenue from it. We'll see.
Now, this will be a definite loss. Philadelphia.
That's a definite loss.
Philadelphia is a possible. Maybe we'll get some money back.
A
in the
possible
future.
gain. They are making claim that that we might be able to see some money back in this thing, as far as that they don't have to use it. I can tell you that nobody in that meeting felt comfortable with that statement whatsoever.
Sure.
Yeah, so.
Now, is this just debt service for the arena, or are they
Any project there.
Any project within these areas?
And that's why they did it for 30 years. So they're thinking this project is going to cost. It might be $30 million.
Just the arena.
The arena, and then they have the whole redevelopment of the waterfront. They have that whole area that they don't know what they're going to do.
I have this this memo that was just sent out to the Lehigh and Northampton TCC delegates that has some number breakdowns. I'll send that over to you guys.
Now, if there's ever anything that can be done from our end, it will go through the tax collection committee.
Yeah.
And then they'll just ask you to sign on to something that you would never do anything.
I don't see, quite honestly, it's almost a moot point, other than now we have to live with it, or lobby our legislators to.
And that'll be a group effort of lobbying, not a borough council.
I don't foresee it happening. But
Stinks. Yeah, it stinks that that's the way they're doing it, but we're stuck with what they do.
I think the biggest insult to people was nobody had any say in it. I think that's really.
It's our money that they took from us
Yeah.
without asking us or telling us. I mean, at least they could have made an estimate first and told us how much it was going to be.
Right.
But life goes on. Anything you can do to update us as time goes on, when you hear things, we
I'll let you know. And
The first quarter.
yeah, we'll start seeing some firm numbers on what our potential losses are going to be. Hey, hopefully nobody works in that zone.
Yeah. I'm sure we have a lot of
I can't
PPL
see
people.
that
I think
happening,
that's wishful thinking.
Yeah. We We have a decent amount of PPL people, I'm sure.
Well, and that's kind of my thought. I mean, it's a hop, skip, and jump down the road here.
A lot of them often rode the Lanta bus from here to PPL, and there were always businessmen standing on the corner, and they were going into that district.
I know. Coming into town, there's an awful lot of cars going out of town in the morning. So,
Going somewhere.
yeah.
All right, next I have the policy for receipts and packing slips. Now, first, the concerns with receipts and packing slips is that they do not always have a proof of purchase attached to them, so it makes it more difficult to know what we're paying for. Is that correct? Is that the biggest issue is?
Just supporting documentation to
Okay.
pay something. A lot of times invoices come through the mail,
Mm-hmm.
and if there's nothing to attach to that invoice, how do we know that we received the
I see.
equipment? Was it in good condition? Things like
Absolutely.
Yeah, what we have is, I think it's fair to say it's one department more than most others. And we've talked about this in our staff meeting as well, and it seems to, just in the last couple of weeks, probably been improving. At least you haven't come to me as much about it in the last couple of weeks. Maybe because she already knows I'm aware. But the bottom line is, in situations where these guys go and buy something at the hardware store or a Home Depot or somewhere where we're ultimately going to get an invoice, when they do that, 99% of the time, they get a receipt with it. And what we want is the individual that went and purchased it, reciting their name on that receipt, handing it to us.
Right.
And there are instances where that hasn't happened, whether the receipt got lost or maybe a receipt didn't come with it. I mean, there's all sorts of reasons why it didn't come, but we want to put a clear-cut policy in place holding all employees accountable that if we purchase something, we want your name attached to it, that you're the one that got it. My experience is that, if you go to the hardware store over here, there should only be certain employees on that account.
Right.
And that employee should be the one that signs their name to that receipt. So that way, let's just say, for example, a former employee goes in there and says, hey, I want to buy a power drill. We know that it didn't come from one of our people.
And now, like the hardware store, someone can just show up and buy something, doesn't have to give a credit card, doesn't have to do anything.
Right, you have an account.
We have an account, and then they just bill you monthly and say, here's the bill.
Well, Wentz,
Wentz.
Is the big one. They get actual receipts when they go to Wentz.
They get a
They're
cash
supposed to-
register receipt, but then it gets charged to an account.
Right, and then they turn them into, in general, it's Public Works that will go there. They turn those receipts into John, who codes it, and then gives it to me to input. Then we get a monthly statement from Wentz that'll compare the stage and everything that was paid to make sure there's no missing receipts, which typically there are.
And in the case of missing receipts, you just end up
Wentz
paying
is,
it anyway?
Wentz is good because along with the statement, they'll send copies of all the receipts.
Receipts.
Yeah, so you know what that invoice actually was, what was purchased.
What Christine does is, if we get an invoice without a receipt, that she doesn't have a copy of receipt, she gives it to the department head. And then they verify that it was a legitimate purchase. Quite honestly, we shouldn't be having to do that.
Correct.
If a receipt got lost, for example, in person, whatever it is, the bottom line is we need to have some kind of record, whether or not they write on a piece of paper for us.
That our budget sent one.
Purchase
Here's
this
this
form.
Accountability
Yeah.
on their.
On their end instead of your end, trying to
Right.
figure it out.
Right.
Understood.
And don't get us wrong. She gives it to Jeff or John or Dave or whoever's department it is. They go and take care of it. But it's the point that we shouldn't have to do that extra legwork in the end. And we're just looking for more accountability to be more proactive, I guess, in doing that.
Now, how would you typically deal with? You'd write a policy and then we distribute it at a staff meeting to all department heads and they then share it with that. So if you want to write that policy and then you want this committee to review it?
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
And there's two ways to handle that. One is I personally hold the department heads accountable. It's your fault. And then they need to hold their employees
Employees
accountable.
accountable. I agree.
You know, just like when they come under budget, we give them the credit. Well, when things aren't coming the way that they're supposed to be, you know, then they have to be held accountable at the same time. So what I do personally is I put the responsibility on the department head, who in turn puts responsibility on his employees. So if we have an employee who is continuously losing packing slips, that's a violation of policy. You know, which means the department head needs to handle the employee. In the meantime, I'm on the department head about, you know, about the issue.
Is that policy then something you'd ask all employees to sign off on? Okay. If you want to create that policy, then we'll review it. Any input from anyone, anything we're missing, anything that needs to think about that we haven't thought about? No, I think you've thoroughly thought about the problem and truly appreciate that you thought about it and brought it before us and then take it to the next step.
I think it'll be a lot easier for Christine.
It should be time saving.
And I think it'll also be time saving for the department heads. Because, you know, they're spending more time than they need to trying to track down.
To do the job twice. Yeah, basically somebody's doing the job twice in the long run. Yeah, good job. Glad that happened. I have Cedar Brook Sportsmen requesting $300 for the stocking of 200 trout in the first dam prior to the first day of trout season, which will be here in another 8 weeks. That was February 1st. That would make it close to the end of March. This is typically an expense that we pay out of Civic Celebrations. We pay them, they bring the fish in, they stock Furnace Dam, there's trout there when the season opens, and a lot of people fish there. It's very well used, it's very well enjoyed. I would assume we want to continue the relationship. Anyone else have input?
No, fine.
Brings a lot of people on that Saturday.
I agree.
There's
Yeah.
people over.
And for an extended period of time, there are trout in there, and kids fish and adults fish, and I think it's good practice. I think it's good.
I'll make a motion that we authorize $300.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? We have 3 ayes. If you could draft a letter to them, and then if we could, we'll bring that up at council to pay it at the next
We'll bring it up at council,
We'll
so
bring
it
us-
won't be paid on the next bills.
following.
So we're recommending council for action.
We'll recommend to council for action, and then you can get it on the bill list then. But let's recommend to council, and if you want to let them know, we'll pay it, and then give them the date when the approximate date when we'll send the check, just so they know that we're interested, because it's been almost a month. Mass Main Street Partners request for $5,000. On behalf of the board of directors, I would like to thank the borough for continued support. I'm ready to request the release of our 2012 financial contribution to the Emmaus Main Street program in the amount of $5,000. These funds will help ensure the ongoing efforts of the Main Street program, as we work towards bettering the economic stability, beautification, and quality of life for those who work, live, and visit Emmaus. It's a budgeted expense. It's one that was debated and determined that we should give them that money. I believe it's budgeted at $5,000. And they're just asking that we release the funds. They will be here the next council meeting, March 5th, giving a presentation about what they've done and what they will be doing. I would recommend that we release this money.
Have we always done that? Just release it?
They usually ask for it, we release it. There have been times that we've given half and then half later in the year. We used to give them a lot more money. It used to be as much as $15,000, and we used to give them $7,500 and $7,500. They requested the whole amount. I would say, I would like to see this committee recommend the release, and then afterwards it'll go to full council to make that final determination before we release the money. And they'll be giving their presentation March 5th, so I think it works out that way. And that's what it's in the budget. It's in the budget of $5,000.
Yeah.
And it's
I'll
been-
make a motion
thank
to
you.
release the funds.
Yeah, I'll second
Thank you.
that.
All-
We'll do it.
Any discussion? Yeah, they'll be here March 5th at that meeting. They'll be giving a presentation to us, to full council, and then we'll talk to full council about it at that if someone feels differently and would only like to release half for some reason.
Okay.
They requested it all, so I think we should meet their request.
Okay.
So all those in favor? We have 3 ayes.
Can I bring something up about the Main Street
Partners.
Partners?
Yeah, I don't know if I said program or partners.
It doesn't matter.
They
Hi.
keep changing it.
The Main Street Partners will be coming to you shortly regarding, and again, I'll forward you the notes from that meeting. The old furniture store down on Main Street. They received a $500,000 grant. They have an investor that's putting in $622,000 into the building. Beautiful building. If you've
Yeah,
ever been in there, it's really neat. Bottom line though is for the grant to be effective, and here's the asterisk. The municipality has to pass a resolution stating that they will back the project, meaning if for some reason the developer screws it up and the grant money is rejected, that the municipality would be on the line for it. And when the
Wow.
gentleman from RCAP sat there and said that, I went, no,
That ain't happening.
no. But, well, and here's the caveat though. What we do is we draw up a legal agreement with the developer saying that if that were the case, then they are the ones that are liable to us for that money.
Who's the developer?
The developer himself.
But if the developer happens to bolt,
The developer and the owner of the property.
okay.
Yeah, and the owner. I can tell you that, like, I had that uneasy feeling about that. Although, you know, if we did put that legal agreement in, I've worked on RCAP projects before.
Well, tell me what that is first.
It's a redevelopment grant project. It's a redevelopment.
From state, federal?
It's a both, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
State grant, federal funding type of thing.
Okay.
But they put a consultant in. You know, they have a consultant working with you to go through the whole process.
When you say you, the Main Street
The
program, the people doing the work.
people that got the grant.
So basically, this is their project.
This would
They
be
do
their
the
project,
It all goes-
their grant. If they go belly up on this thing, then it falls back ultimately on a taxing body. Now, if we really, really, really have a problem with this, the county might be willing to step in and be the ones to sign on the dotted line there.
And the Main Street program is going to give us a presentation in which is going to be geared toward winning us over on this, or not yet.
No, well, yeah. They better. The county was actually going to be the applicant for the RCAP grant, but instead the Main Street Partners ended up being the applicant. So the county's been partnering with them the whole way through.
From the beginning.
Yeah. So quite honestly, if we have that uneasy feeling, I think that Lehigh County would probably step up and sign on the dotted line, which would probably make all of us feel a little better.
And all you're doing is lending, saying,
You're not-
if something goes terribly wrong, then we will assume control of this situation and fix it.
If something goes terribly wrong, no. If something goes terribly wrong, we will pay the money
We will
back.
pay everything back.
Pay the grant back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is the $500,000 you're saying.
Yeah, and in which case you would have to sign a legal agreement with the developer and the property owner saying that they're the ones that would be legally liable for money. And you sign it with both of them, so that way you can go after both of them, which means ultimately you could be owning.
You're gonna own a building.
Theory, you could be owning the
Could be owning
furniture.
the
You're gonna own a building, yeah.
Now, the developer who...
This developer has
Developer
done
who's
multiple
done-
RCAP grants.
Okay.
Okay, I
And
mean,
this is the one that I saw the pictures, like Schwenksville and down closer to
Yes.
Philly has done all
Yeah,
this, and they look
this-
like big brick old
This
brick
this
buildings.
gentleman has done multiple projects like this. You know, it's a great idea. What they want to do with the building is absolutely phenomenal. I think will boost the downtown, but there is that liability issue of you pass this resolution, you could ultimately be in some trouble if they mess it up.
And the information...
If I mess it up. Sorry.
You get $500,000 in a grant.
Right.
Let's just say theory. Let's not go there.
No.
You get $500,000 for this grant, and this grant defines specific things that you can do. Okay, you can use it to pay your consultant fees, or let's say you can't use it to pay your consultant fees. Let's just say, but remember that though, you can't use it for consultant fees, but you can pay to rip out the flooring, put new flooring in,
Yeah,
rip out
construction.
walls,
Yeah.
you know, all the electrical, all that stuff, design work.
Mhm.
So you spend all this money and you have this dollar for dollar match, so you have to match it with $500,000.
Right, that's,
Okay.
they have
Right.
to do that, right.
So let's just say the project cost comes in at 900,000, and for construction, and then you added in $100,000 for consulting, and they turn around and say, yeah, but you couldn't use $100,000 for consulting, so that way now you owe us $100,000 back.
Who are they? Us, the Main Street program.
No, the
Those that
grant,
wanted the
those
grant.
who-
grant
People
people.
say you
Yeah.
owe it, and then it would fall.
So that $100,000 would come back to us.
The Main Street program, yeah.
Whether it be-
In which case now we're on the hook for $100,000, and we would have to go after the developer and the property owner ourselves. What are the chances of them screwing it up? Nothing against them, but I know what it's like to have grants screwed up. So there is a possibility. I don't know that it's a high possibility, but there is a possibility.
You would have to have some level of involvement in management of this project if you were going to.
Well,
sign on.
I can tell you
you're a
that
part of this now.
if you're signing a resolution, we would be watching them like a hawk
Would you ask for them updates?
every month. Absolutely. I would be
Exactly.
I would be very much involved in.
You need a committee. You'd almost have to form a special committee just to oversee it, don't you think?
No, I don't think so. I would want a copy of every receipt. I would want a copy of every invoice. I would want a copy of all grant payments. I mean, I would be.
So basically, it's going to come down to a philosophical idea if we're interested in being involved with it to that level or not,
Yeah.
which is something we've never done. I mean, we've never had. I mean, I understand lots of communities probably do it. Lots of government entities take that role. We have never stepped into business to that degree. I don't believe we've only ever supported the Main Street program partners in what they do and said, here's your money, you use it, and then report back to us and tell us what's going on so we feel justified in using the taxpayer money for it. My argument would be, I don't know that the taxpayers want us to pay our borough manager to oversee your project so you don't screw up and we don't have to pay for it.
Right.
I mean, it
I
doesn't.
mean, taxpayers, no matter what, are going to be paying to oversee something there.
Yeah, you're right.
Because
Yeah, you're right.
whether it's at the county level or
grant
at the
level.
borough
Right.
level,
Right.
It's gonna be
some
something
taxing
like
body has, and that's the way that this redevelopment grant works.
Some taxing body is.
So
required to
whether
oversee it.
it's do we want it to be our involvement or the county's involvement, the law says that one of the two have to. It's easy to pass it off to the county, but you almost feel like if
Are we
we're
splitting
if we're
something?
yeah if
Yeah.
we're involved in it, that means that I can have a little bit of control over this project.
Is there a timeline of when this needs to happen? You know that?
The resolution,
Yeah.
we're talking within probably weeks, probably the next 60 days, probably.
Okay. And that, you think this will come up Monday night?
I don't think so.
Okay.
The Main Street Partners and the developer I think they have a joint solicitor working on this. I think they both are sharing the same solicitor. He's going to forward me some copies of legal agreements they had with municipalities and some sample resolutions. And I also told them that they're going to have to sell it to council.
Absolutely. Okay.
So they may bring it up in their presentation on Monday evening, but as far as you doing any kind of resolution or anything like that, that's not going to.
Correct. Do you
That
believe
would
it
not.
needs to go to a certain committee? I'm just not sure how it plays out from first time I hear about it.
I would probably think
CRD.
CRD probably at that point. But just so you guys know, there is that level of financial responsibility that, not that we have to foot any money.
Correct. Not yet. Not until somebody screws up.
Right. If they screw up, that's where you're
You could be on the hook for
You-
a lot of
yeah.
money.
Because they get their community centers.
yeah.
They end up confiscating.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
exactly.
it. We'll wait for them to fix it all up, and put all sorts of names against it, and take it from them.
Interesting. Well, thank you for that update. And we did vote.
Interesting thought.
We did vote. We did vote on the Main Street program request,
Yes.
correct? Okay, I have a request from the Emmaus Borough Police retirees making a request for the appropriate pension increase from Glenn Dilsher, retired police officer. There is a cost impact, what their pension would be, what they're asking for the increase of, the effective grant fee of 2.96% cost of living adjustment to the eligible retired members. The numbers are on it. The plan, an increase in the unfunded accrued liability of approximately $49,000 annually they're asking for. I don't think we have in recent years given them the request for an increase. Am I correct?
It's been several years.
It's been several years since we've granted them an increase.
And actually, their police pension is doing quite well. And that's why the pension board needed.
I would recommend we deny their request for increase. I know we don't have a budgeted amount to increase. I don't know if anyone feels differently. Oh, I see that here. As of the end of January, it started off very strong. Well, that's good. I don't know if anyone has any specific feelings. I'd like to make a motion to approve or deny their request.
I'd just like to ask Davey a question.
Chief Fest?
Do you have any idea when the last time was that we gave them their increase?
I have to check with the
Probably,
union.
what, 8 years?
I
9
I
years?
honestly can't answer that.
I was told, I thought that he had mentioned to us in the pension board meeting, that it was like the late 90s.
It has not been since I've been on council. That's only, this would be
I
only the
think we
fourth or
gave it
fifth
to
year.
them once, either in 2000 or 2001, so it's been quite a long time since they had the increase.
I don't think this is eager to do. I think the possibility exists in the future to do it, but I'm not sure that this is eager with the unknowns that exist. But I understand your line of thinking that it probably is a deserved increase at some point.
Cost of living.
They're asking for the cost of living of 2.96. And now they do get a minor increase. Typically, correct? Or is this is what they're saying?
This is the
Yeah.
increase.
Oh, so
that they
their
get.
original is when they retire.
After,
The maximum is what they get. And then why is the monthly pension? This would be with the increase, this number then?
It's a
Yeah,
higher number,
yeah.
right?
2012 would be what they would then get monthly, which is the amount increased. If you go to like 40.
Well, how does some of these guys ever get above the original monthly pension then? If we never grant increases? Let's say 8 or 9 years we haven't granted an increase, but they started with this monthly pension and now they get this
some
monthly
of
pension.
them, it depended on the number of years that they worked.
Right. Service and
A couple years ago, there was that law that was passed that you had the option, if they worked 25 years, they could get an extra $100, 26 years, another extra $100, to 30 years.
Right, it's
That may
attached to
be,
the contract.
yeah, that may be some of that.
That's how it's good.
Mm.
Now, you could also give them a lesser increase in 2.96. It's just their request.
Right. That's
For a number of years, we've offered no increase.
Right.
I should say we've granted no increase. It's
No
not really an
increase.
offering, it's a, we tell you, correct? You're a popular guy today, huh?
I don't know. I have mixed feelings.
Mr. Shipsa?
Yeah, I'm in between both of them. I'm sort of like looking at the number 2.96 and trying to think of another number.
Maybe 1.5. Better than
Since
nothing.
it's brought up that it hasn't been in umpteen years.
I vaguely remember an increase.
Wasn't it
Since I've
2000,
been,
2001?
since I've been here, because I remember somebody calling me and questioning me why they got more. Because it wasn't done as of January, it was done.
Somewhere and then
March,
it's changed,
April,
and then it's
July,
retroactive.
retro.
It's
Yeah.
retroactive.
So,
Right.
I think it's been within the last 9
I
years.
think it was 2000, 2001. Maybe even 2. But I think that's the only time we've given it to them. We've denied it every other
To
year.
find that out.
This comes up every year?
Yeah, they request every year.
Okay.
We deny every year that I've ever been here.
But, you know, I mean, maybe you table it and think about it until Monday.
Find that out before the next meeting, if you could get us when the last one was, yeah. The
I
last-
think, if I had to guess, I would say 2004 or 5 or something.
Okay, yeah, look at it, let us know. Is it typical to ever give them an increase? Or?
Yeah, it is. I'll tell you.
You gotta think of it, it's their money.
I know, yeah,
It depends on performance of the
Of the market.
Of the fund. right.
It's very strong.
And the January numbers are strong again.
Well, yeah, last year in 2011, the market was so volatile, they didn't gain anything, but at the end of the day, they didn't lose anything, which was a good thing, and both pensions ended up that way. The police pension is considerably stronger than the non-uniform pension, but just in the month of January this year, it went up by 300,000 or something.
Yeah, considerable
Crazy
amount.
number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But who knows what March 1st
Yes, right.
is going to tell us, especially since, you know, somebody over in Saudi Arabia sneezed, so gas prices went through the roof. You know, I mean, that's how the market works. So it really, it comes down to whether or not you guys think that you can afford to pay them a little bit extra.
Maybe we should just wait.
Yeah, I
You just want to wait until
We'll vote on it Monday then.
wait till Monday night, and then any more information to provide before Monday night would be very helpful. We'll just wait till Monday night.
We'll have a date by then, right?
Yeah, that's when it's last.
We got a personal appeal from Nancy Hill. I have read with great dismay the Emancipatch report that without the help of a fairy godmother, the borough has carried over $300,000, the exact amount of money needed for the thwarted stadium project. It is astonishingly incompetent to be that much off the mark for a borough as small as Emmaus, and it requires a truthful explanation. Councilman Hotzenhafer's quote, "We had a much larger cash carryover than we expected," begs for a more detailed explanation. From where did this carryover come? What number of dollars came from which sources? Which services were cut to produce the carryover? And how exactly is the significantly better revenue explained? I would like to suggest for the record that since the savings from the switch to Raritan Valley for garbage collection wasn't passed on to the consumers, that this $300,000 be redistributed to borough residents. For the record, that since the savings from the switch to Raritan Valley.
For garbage.
Well, it's too late to give the money back in that way. I think we've all thought about it and decided that money really needs to stay in a contingency account for unexpected expenses. I believe we were extremely fortunate to have that fairy godmother that I guess would have been named Craig Neely for his conservative accounting of revenue. And really what it comes from is fairy godmother Neely just underestimating what he believed revenue line items would be. Because yeah, he just underestimated numbers because he was very tentative and very conservative in that way, which led us to a much better revenue than expected.
Like I said to you, yeah, like I said to you in my letter to you, there's no way Craig Neely or any other borough manager could have predicted some of these revenues. I've been doing municipal budgets for 6 years now, and I look at some of these revenues that we received, and there's no way you can predict with an educated guess as to what some of this stuff was. It's impossible. And if you were able to do that, and you would have came up short, then you were the bloke. You were the joke of everybody's. Yeah. So, and you don't expect people to understand that, but the bottom line is what he budgeted in terms of revenue, in my opinion, he was spot on. We just got lucky. In a lot of areas.
An insurance dividend.
Your healthcare dividend, how,
DEP recycling.
I'll be honest with you, I'm afraid of the number that you budgeted in 2012 for healthcare dividend.
Yeah, I agree, right.
Because if that comes up zero, we're searching for $100,000. And
Which is the point of having that contingency account, that money in case, because we don't know.
And 3 years ago, you came up at zero.
Mhm.
So we have one major surgery. We have
Sure, yeah,
we
a heart
have-
attack, we have something.
yeah, we
major.
have one
Yeah.
major problem that goes wrong with one of our employees or their family member. That number ends up at zero. That's a chance that you take. So the fact that we got $100,000 and only budgeted what 30 or something like that, that's the number I would have put in there.
Well, and often you would budget zero just for what could be.
Right.
I mean, what could be, you're paying your premiums, you would expect that you pay your premium, you may get nothing back. It is a good possibility something happens and you get nothing back. And I do have to praise all of our department heads, they were all under budget.
Yeah. And our
In-
police,
in-
our
on a
police
bare bones
department, you know, and I said this today before I'd gone through his budget, and I sat down with him the first week I was here, and I highlighted probably 20 line items, and I asked him, how do you expect to meet these numbers? Because these are nowhere close to what your average expenses are. And his response was basically, I've made it work before, I'll do my best to make it work again. You know, so when you get that kind of response, and he also said, thank you for understanding, you know, but when you get that kind of response, you know, you tend to appreciate what they're trying to, you know, they're keeping in mind why we did what we did. I mean, there's another end to that, and that is, we've got to make sure we're not sacrificing services here.
Absolutely, and we're at the point where if we would have to be in the situation again in the fall, we would be sacrificing services.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So the true hope is that we can be more realistic and not have to sacrifice services, but we don't know that yet. But I think that answers the question of answering Mrs. Hill's comments. If you could draft a letter to her and just let her know we didn't forget. And do you have Nancy Hill?
I have.
She doesn't have an address on here.
It's 6th Street. We'd have to do some research.
I'm sure there's something somewhere, but it is. If you could just draft a letter to her. You know, very simply that we were very fortunate, we got very lucky in that way. And I think that answers the question of 2011 budget and why we're in the situation we're in. I don't know if anybody else has questions to answer as to 2011 budget, if there's anything else that.
You all did get a copy of that
Yes,
memo,
yeah.
right? On the budget breakdown that
Yes.
I had looked at from the outside.
Mhm.
Right.
No, it was very well done. You very clearly showed us where it came from.
And I think I did hand that to some press reporter.
Okay. And we were just lucky.
Might have been.
I mean, imagine if
I think
it
it was you.
Yeah.
imagine if this was the opposite when we were coming in. I mean, we may
Well,
not.
I can tell you, we've all been on the other side of that.
Yeah, we've been.
And I'd much rather be on this side of it.
It's not that long ago that we were all on the other side of this.
2008.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were on the other side.
I can tell you though, it's kind of frustrating to keep hearing this baseball stadium thing, because it's like, unless you guys are hiding something from me, honestly, I'd like to know where we're hiding the money for the baseball
Yeah,
stadium.
it doesn't exist. It was taken. You know, we had the opportunity to get the funds to put in the baseball stadium.
Right, and I've been explaining that
Yeah.
from multiple people.
And they got taken away.
But honestly, I mean, this is legitimate. What I wrote here is
Absolutely.
what I felt you can deduct from what happened.
The general authority. Now, we need to request capital from the general authority. I don't know if you had a chance to look into previous requests, if you understand the process of what it is and how it works. I don't know.
A little bit, I
Okay. The general authority typically funds us with capital requests. They are a money lending authority that then turns some of the profit back to the borough in the amount of capital requests. So what we typically do is we ask them for specific capital requests and ask them to fund it. And then they decide at the meeting. Now, I know they said they would invite us to, what did you say, the May meeting?
Maybe.
The May meeting, he'll invite us, we can then at that meeting explain to him what we'd like. I can go to that meeting and tell him what we'd like, and here's our request at that meeting. So if, Mr. Pepe, you want to think about that with the department heads in the meantime, and just go over their previous requests. I don't want new requests to come out. I don't want them to say, oh, well, we have more money, they don't request. I know we have Chief Faust, we have a memo from him.
Yeah, I have, and I've been speaking with the chief on a number of issues in his department. You know, one thing that we need to think about and think heavily about is their heating and cooling system in that building. We went well over a week with no heating system in there, and that's not the first time that happened. I told him that my job was to cut expenses, so we shut their heat off. But in reality, you know, well, then the heat in my office wasn't working the next week. So,
What you do
So
comes
we cut
out.
your heat off.
yeah, so I figured maybe he was
Careful what you
downstairs
do.
messing with me. But you know, I know I'm aware of their heating system. I know that that's a major issue over there, and it's been since the beginning of the building.
Our heating and cooling system in this building is an issue.
No,
And this building also is an issue,
Well,
though.
yeah.
Yeah, but
Our
not
windows
as not
need-
as
right,
not as
yeah.
serious
Yeah.
as his. Another issue with buildings that we have is over in the ambulance building, and we can talk more on that in an executive session. But the bottom line is there's some crowding issues with the ambulance department that I feel needs some reconfiguring of office space over there, and not necessarily building onto the building, but looking into the, they have like a training room or conference room there, and maybe building out into that room a little bit, and expanding. I mean, we have two people crammed into an office that literally they sit on top of each other, and it creates a difficult environment for both of them. So,
And those are things that can go into this. My theory has been ask for about 100,000, hopefully in 3 or 4 different items, and then hope they fund some of it. I know we're budgeted 80,000. They've given us as much as 100, a little over 100 in the past. It depends how much they have, and I don't know what they have right now. They don't often say, here's what we have and here's what we want to give you. They ask us to make that request.
the chief, of course, I mean, we have the
His
computer
computer
issues.
system, he needs a police car, and it's very common to ask for a police car of them. And they're
I mean,
often
my understanding is they historically haven't funded computers.
They did for the library within the last year. They bought the library computers, so they bought library computers. But the hard issue, the bigger vehicles, those things, asking the ambulance corps needs it, and we can make our case to them of this is why we're asking for this. So if you have some time to think about that over the next couple of weeks and what you believe would be what you believe we'll ask for, and then we as a committee will look at that also. If there's 4 or 5 things you want to put on a list, and we'll say, yeah, this looks like a good one, this doesn't, you know, or yes, this is what we want to ask them for. If you just want to look at that and figure out what you think are the most pressing issues right now, or expenses that we know we have this year that we haven't budgeted for.
Let me ask you this, what out of capital are we paying for? Does anybody have any idea?
Well, you know, the issue with capital is we're taking the proceeds of the bond to pay for things that are in there that I don't know that was ever our intention. We're taking the rest of the bond the 2010 bond proceeds, that's 78,000, and we're using that to fund expenses that it wasn't necessarily originally planned for.
Well, I don't know if you're aware, but the last 2 years for the chief's capital, he had firearms listed that never made it to this committee for a decision. That
I didn't
Mr.
know.
Neal just removed on his own.
May disappear.
Yeah. So there has been a request for
Okay.
a firearm replacement, which I don't know when or how or what we're gonna do with that.
Memo about that at some point, Chief, if you would. If you could just tell us your firearm request. If you could just get that to this committee, to Mr. Pepe at some point.
Could you
Because I'm
include-
unaware of that.
Age of the guns, as well as the average number of rounds shot out of them each year.
Sure.
And then just get that to us, and then I'm sorry that we missed that. I didn't know anything about it, and I apologize for that. So if you, no rush, Chief, but when you have a chance, if you want to get that together and get it to us so we can review that.
And what I'll do is I'll sit down at the next staff meeting with the department managers and discuss their capital.
Very good.
Capital
I'm not interested in new capital requests.
Right.
Just so nobody says, oh, well, now that there's money, I need this, and now that there's money, I need this. Now, there are some capital numbers that went into here that we have to look at. There's definitely a police car,
25,000 for computers.
for computers in the police department, and which could be a higher number, correct, also?
It's actually 47.
It was 47,000 that was put in at
Roughly
25, so.
47.
So any number that we can get in there,
We have the
Would
new
help.
quotes. Davey has new quotes for
Okay.
the computers.
good. And that's something we need to look at. A lot of the rest of it is smaller items in the capital request, and you know it doesn't really work like that with the general authority. We're not going to ask for a $5,000 upgrade to Borough Hall. We want to ask for something hard and fast that they know the money that we're taking will go directly into it, and then we'll purchase it and pay it back. And if it's, you know, if we can't get $80,000 this year, we can't this year. But if you're clear on that, I'm so happy that makes it clear. Appreciate it. Then we'll be looking for that. I had. Let's see what else I got. What else you have, Mrs. Gilbert?
Just executive session.
Mr. Pepe, anything else besides
Yeah.
negotiations? There was a request from Flag Day that came, not officially, but looking for $200 or $300 to help fund something. My response was, please provide us with a list of donors that you've contacted for donations and the amount they've given you before requesting anything from us.
What are they looking for money for? Do you have any idea?
It was for flags and maybe they wanted something else, I'm not sure. I just wanted to see the list of who they contacted so far for donations
Oh, okay.
prior. I just want to make sure they're doing that before they're just coming to us asking for money. I don't want to be the first one. I'm not sure. Let me see if here it is. It was from Nate, but it went to Dr. Waddell for some reason. It didn't even directly
Oh,
come
they
towards
to
me.
Jen Ad, maybe.
I think he's trying to push it to Gen Ed. Purchase of flags and towards a Flag Day celebration, it said. Which we've never funded before, and I'm not interested in beginning to fund the celebration. I really, truly would like to see them ask individuals or private organizations for that money before it comes through us. And I'm assuming they haven't done that yet. If they come to us and say, hey, here are the 20 organizations we contacted, no one would give us any money, then I'll consider their request. Before that, I don't want to consider that request.
I think we got something in writing. Chief, did you want to talk to us specifically about any issues today?
No, I think you covered it.
Okay.
I have several things.
Yeah, let's go.
Cell phones.
Oh, very good.
Oh, how about that?
We are in the process. With your blessing today, I will sign the new contract tomorrow with Verizon. We are set to save about $2,000 a year on cell phones. What we did was we're changing from the commercial plan that we had over to the federal government plan. We're looking at a considerable savings. I'm still working on certain accounts that we have, and I'll discuss that in more detail with you guys at a later date. Why certain accounts are billed differently than others, and what we can do to lower those expenses, in addition to trying to ban the numbers 411 from our phones.
From your world, huh?
Okay.
Sometimes the technologically
Nice.
challenged decide to dial 411 rather than looking at yellowpages.com. So,
No, you don't.
Get a check.
you know, I mean,
It was only like $20 a month.
the person has the best intentions. I know he's trying to do, but yellowpages.com gets you the same results.
For free.
And a little faster.
So we're working on that. So we have considerable savings there. So now we're talking between the gas and the cell phones, we're looking at $6,000 without changing a thing of savings. In addition to the safety committee, we are now up to $21,000 of instant savings for the borough in the next 12 months. First safety committee meeting is next Tuesday. I scheduled it, I just don't know when it is.
Chief, do you?
Yes.
So our first safety committee meeting is next Tuesday. Just so you know, they are not public meetings. All right, they are employee-based meetings. Council members are invited, but they are there to sit and talk about the nitty-gritty of employee injuries, department safety issues, those types of things.
What time of day?
That will,
8:30.
yeah, the first one's going to start at 8:30 in the morning. It's right before our staff meeting. Ultimately, we will set up, once we get, for the first few months, it's going to be department heads, just for the first couple months, getting this thing off the ground, and then getting the information out to employees. And then after that, we'll filter in employees and we'll set up a hard time of, on this day of the week at this time, whether it's in the afternoon or when it'll be, we'll figure that out. But, we have to establish the committee and then we'll set up the time. Any council members that want to be involved with it, if we find that, there's certain council members that want to be involved with it, but they can only meet in the afternoons, and that's conducive to the employees, then we'll start meeting in the
Okay,
afternoons.
I'm not a safety person, so you don't have to worry about me. Safety's not my strength.
All right. You're one of those guys that spent a lot of time at the hospital, aren't you?
5 broken arms
Yeah.
as a teenager. 5 times I broke my arm. My mom was not happy with me.
But we are
Stay away from
we are on the verge of,
Been good lately.
saving some money there. Another area where we're looking at saving some money, and Chief, I'm sorry to do this to you, but I'm going to blindside you with this.
It's great.
It's happened before.
We have 2 postage machines in the borough.
Yep.
One is in his building and one is in my building. Doesn't make any sense whatsoever. The 5-year lease comes up on both of them in the next 2 or 3 months. I plan to eliminate one of them. Okay. The ambulance and fire bring all their mail over here for us to run through our postage machine. The lease on his postage machine I know is almost $900 a year. I'm assuming the lease on our postage machine is probably the same, close to it,
Oh, considerably higher.
considerably higher. We probably have a higher output machine. We have a quote from ITS Neopost, making the claim that if we just switched over our machine without doing anything with his machine, they could save us, not I could save us, they could save us in the first 24 months $1,700, and then in 39 months after that another $1,200. So about $3,000 over the course of the term, just in changing from one company to the other. He uses ITS Neopost over in his building. We use who was it?
Maybe those.
Yeah, Pitney Bowes. We'll go to Pitney Bowes and go to other companies. Right now's the time to do it. I don't see any reason why we need 2 machines between the 2 of us. It's kind of funky the way it works now. I mean, we take our mail over there at the end of the day. They come pick their mail up over here in the morning because the mailman doesn't want to. I don't want to. I'm not going to go there. But the bottom line is, we're right across the parking lot, and if we can save, and that's $1,000 I can put back into his equipment, or whatever kind of budget we can. There's another $1,000 a year that we can create as a cost savings.
So it looks like you'll save your salary in the first quarter of maintenance. You're the man.
Just remember that. All right. I have a 6-month probationary period, and then at the end of 12 months, it's called this,
No.
re-sign thing. Okay. Just keep me around. That's all I'm asking for.
That's wonderful. Thank you for doing that. I mean, it's using common sense to solve
Well,
simple problems.
I think the one advantage that I had was, coming from where I did, I've already gone through all these, how do we fix the budget type of thing. So, I kind of had that advantage coming in here of, I know where there's simple places, and it's always easiest to, hit the simple things first before you start digging into, all right, now let's start looking at some more serious issues. Business privilege tax, do we want to even talk about that yet, Ms. Gilbert? Is
No,
that
that's
something?
what's supposed to be
I think we
here
want Mr.
tonight.
Gould to talk
Yeah,
about that,
we
right?
have to-
Now, you do need a motion on the cell phone policy though, right?
Yeah, I would like you guys, if you could, to approve us to sign that contract immediately.
With Verizon to save that $2,000 a year with no change in service, correct?
Yeah, same amount of minutes, just we're all
Same
going on.
people still have cell phones.
Same, yeah.
Someone want to make that motion?
And I'll make a motion to accept that.
Gilbert, are you comfortable second?
Yeah, no problem. I'll second it.
Discussion? All those in favor? We have 3 ayes. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chopsta. The only other thing I have is the ELM. I had that on here, the Emmaus Lowell Macungie Composting Association. I was looking for an update from Mr. Clapper that I haven't seen. There's a couple updates I've been looking for from Mr. Clapper that I haven't seen.
Mr. Clapper, and just to let you know, Mr. Clapper has been out sick for most of the last 7 days, and before that he had some major computer issues,
Okay.
which everything seems to be resolved now.
He
So
did call me over the weekend about the lawn mowing contract. The lawn mowing contract is in year, I think it was 3. We signed on for a 3-year term, and we're in the second of the 3 one-year extensions. Mr. Clapper's belief on it, I just asked him, is it something we should be looking at and bidding back out? He believes that we have a very good person at a very fair price. It's very easy to work with, and it would be silly for us to bid it out and change that relationship at this point. That was his belief on it. So I asked for a memo.
One-year extension?
Um,
One-year extension?
Well, see, the problem is that by the August of every year, we're in the 1-year extension periods. By August of every year, they have to let each other know whether it is, and I still can't get that answer out of Mr. Clapper after 3 times, whether that has been done. So my assumption is, I shouldn't assume. So he did call me and say he's very happy with the service. He thinks we're getting a very fair price. I don't know. I mean, I know there's a lot of people that are out of work. I know there are a lot of landscaping companies. I know a lot of them need winter revenue from snow plowing, and they didn't get it this year. So my thought was, if we bid this thing out, we may get a much better price because people need work. We also, when I looked at the old contract, the one we have was a lot less than the other 2 or 3 who bid it. It wasn't even, like he was, I want to say he was 50,000 and the next one was 70,000 for the same level of service, which concerns me that if we bid it out, he may go up 10,000 and we may end up paying more than we're currently paying. And I don't know if you've ever seen it, Mr. Pepe.
I have. Jeff expressed that he's extremely happy with these guys. He did send you an email.
Yeah, and then he called me over the weekend. He followed up over the weekend. He called me and I talked to him for a while about
I
it.
don't know that he does memos.
Okay.
You might want to copy Pablo if you want
Okay.
memos.
Okay.
That's probably your best
I
way to
didn't
get a
see
memo.
I
Yeah.
didn't get it.
Well, I wanted a memo before this meeting just on his feelings of the lawn mowing contract, so I could just use his words instead of mine to express whether it was time. I know I looked at it and we're in those 1-year extensions, and I don't know that we're telling him that we want to continue it. So I don't know. I mean, I guess they just assume they want
Yeah,
to.
he did express his satisfaction with them, and he did express that I do believe that they've already been extended
Okay.
for this year.
I think they've verbally been extended, but it's something we need to look into. I don't know. Mr. Clapper did not feel bidding it out would get us better service or a better price.
Well, keep it on your agenda.
Okay.
And we'll look at it again, closer to August.
And he was very happy. He said this is one of those guys that if there is a problem,
He's
you
right
call
there.
him and he's in Emmaus and the problem is solved immediately. He said if there's a tournament coming in and the grass looks high and they call me and say, hey, can you cut the grass? Within an hour or 2, the grass will be cut. He said if I'm working with a big company, you know what I'm going to get
Yeah.
to an answer on a Saturday.
When we
Nothing.
get
So,
there.
yeah. So he was satisfied, and I guess that's okay. I would like to see, before, as I would like that, well, yeah, I would love to see the memo, but I would at least like to know when the contracts are running out, the feeling of what should we do for next year, at least from a department head, an expert in it, to say, yes, we should, or no, we shouldn't, and here's why. Because I didn't feel I was qualified. Now, the lawn mowing contract may have a few I know we're not cutting CWV the way we used to, that needs to be addressed. And I didn't know if there was anything else, but I think Mr. Clapper said he would have a meeting with him and address any of those issues.
Yeah, Jeff had indicated that, anything that has ever arisen that he needs the guy to do differently, he just tells him and
Yeah.
it's done.
Mhm.
I know that he had said about, there was one property in particular, he mows our property, then he mows the next property over because he's contracted
Okay.
with them at
Okay.
the same time. And
That's
it's
fine.
regarding a question that I think you might
I think that may have been one of the other
Yeah.
baseball fields, and he mows the adjacent property, and that was a question that a resident had asked, and that was my assumption to Jeff. I just wanted to make sure we weren't. And I think I think the person with the contract is a very good person that we don't need to get rid of. Anything related to the bike race? You know anything about
Bike race.
that would affect budget and finance in this way?
Not yet. I get,
It definitely is a head scratcher.
I'm afraid that we're it's a complete waste of time. Because at the end of the day, these guys have to raise $100,000.
Is that what you estimated now?
Yeah, their original estimation was 70.
Right.
And after looking at their budget,
Yeah.
that was with our expense being $2,000 to them.
How long is it gonna be?
I just looked at our ambulance's budget for it, or I'm sorry, I looked at the chief's budget for it, and he's still putting manpower and stuff together, and he's over $7,000 already. Ambulance is going to match that cost, every bit of it. We're talking about 2 public works employees on a Saturday and on a Sunday.
Holiday rate, are we in?
You're looking- yeah,
it's a holiday rate.
20 to 25,000, right?
It's just.
But
Yeah,
that's
you're-
the money you're sending back to them, right? That money is going back to them.
Right, they're gonna have to pay us. I mean, that's what the sentiment from you guys said.
Yeah.
And I think that they're going to come and ask you for some relief on some of those costs.
guarantee that.
And Jeff Clapper's feeling is that, we should also be billing them for all of our planning time. And you know what I say is, if we get into this and it comes the middle of June and we spend all of our time, we have all these hours invested in it and they cancel the event, yeah, maybe you think about that. But until then, it's kind of
Well, it's a
I don't
win for the
think we can do
community if
Yeah.
they can make it happen. But it's they who can make it happen. It doesn't
Well,
need to be us. I mean, we don't need to be.
And I hope it
In
happens.
the
I hope
bike
it
racing
works.
business, I agree.
I don't think they understood the scale to what we have to do things.
How did they do it last year? Because I wasn't here.
They did.
They did. It fell apart before it ever got there.
I was on vacation and I thought they did it.
Yeah.
Now, I talked to
Yeah.
the editor of Bicycling and the assistant editor, and he said, "Wow, that's big time." He said, "That's awesome," and he was really into it. He said, "But you as a community really have to know what you're doing for this." He said, "This isn't one that's just going to happen." He felt it was a major effort. He said, "I'll look up some places that have these and see if there's anything before July." He said, "I'll see if there's a spring one," and he had one over close to Princeton, New Jersey. I don't remember where it was, but he said, "I'll send you the information." He said, "You might want to go see it." He said, "But there's going to be 100,000 people in that town for this race." He said, "It's that big. The cyclists from all over the Northeast come to watch this stuff."
Yeah, and they claim that there's going to be 5,000. And I'll tell you, if we get 100,000 people, we can't support that.
Absolutely.
I don't.
No.
No, sir.
No. If we get 100,000 people, we're just detouring them right out of town.
What do we get for the Halloween parade?
10 to 20, high end is 15, usually 15.
No.
And that's a major undertaking, and that's one that's been
Yeah.
practiced for a long time.
Yeah.
He was telling me, you'll go to these races and they'll be 4 or 5 deep. The people on the whole route will be 4 or 5 deep because that many people are coming to see something. Now, he said, maybe you're not quite at that level. He said, but you can expect something major if you pull this off.
To Shane's credit, I think he's been asking us for like really hard numbers. He wants the
Realistic,
staff.
I want high-end.
I started working on this afternoon, and my tab's already at $7,000, and I'm not finished with the map yet of staffing this thing. So I think it's going to be a huge effort on the budget side.
It's got to be a tough time to find the manpower also, I would
We're-
say,
we're
because it's a
talking-
major vacation.
We're
Yeah.
talking a 14-hour day that we have to staff, and then staff the regular shifts yet.
Which means we have to double manpower. 2 7-hour shifts is what he's.
Oh, I
And I'm
see.
looking at 2 7-hour shifts.
As well as your 3 guys that are on.
In addition to the day and middle shift and night shift that have to run.
So you're at 10. You're at least 10 guys work.
Yeah.
You're at 13 guys working
Yeah.
in that day, and People are gonna want vacation for the 4th of July.
Setting up a detour, which will be, auxiliary police and fire police, which I've identified about 3/4 of this map of where we have to put people, and we're at $7,000 because it's all overtime. And then what I did, Shane asked us to plug benefits on top of that, because you're paying that. So we added benefits to this, and the number's climbing. So in the Halloween parade, we do it in a 4-hour stint. This is 14 hours. So it's a big block of time, so they have to understand that's a whole lot of resource and manpower.
One of the very difficult aspects of it, which I understand why they're choosing the triangle, is that it would be around the triangle. It makes it a much more difficult aspect. Think if it was in the other end of town, where you could just close some residential streets and have everybody in a residential area. It would be a whole different story right now instead of closing Main Street.
We can do this. We did it for 2009. We had the plans in place. It's conditionally approved for the detour and to control this, but it's the resources we have to put in and monetary.
Well, and it's the money that goes with the resources.
Absolutely.
That this committee is not going to recommend waiving a large part of it. I mean, we can't afford to do that.
Right.
Mike Nonamaker had also been working today on it, and he met with me this afternoon. It's going to require 2 medical tents on site. One is going to need to be a cooling station for our staff. Another one is going to have to be a first aid tent for the bicyclists. He was able to secure that from the hospital with medical personnel on staff from the hospital, free of charge.
Wow.
So they're going to donate their services to us. We have that secured, and I told Mike, make sure that you explain to them it's a tentative date right now, but we have that secured, and
so that's a real credit to Mike.
Yeah, so he's been working on that end. I know Jeff has been working with the chief on logistics. This is a major undertaking for us, and I hope they pull it off. But my warning to our department heads is let's only take this so far before to make sure that we're not wasting any time on
It's
this.
$100,000 in sponsorship. It's a lot of money.
And it could be something great. It's just the difficulty of
Yeah.
pulling it off the first time.
Well, and they have 4 months to make $100,000, and that in itself is a challenge. And
Budget's already in for those.
yeah, and my fear is that it's not a realistic goal, but they may have an ace in their pocket. Rodale may have money for them. PPL may have money for them. Who knows? I'm not exactly privy to what they have lined up, but
I think we'll hear that Monday night.
yeah, I would hope so.
But thank you for all your work on it. It's above and beyond. Thank you too, Chief. Sure, appreciate it. Anything else?
I just want to bring you guys up to speed on the accounting software program.
Okay.
I come into this with a blind eye as far as the software. So, I have these companies call me saying, this is, you knew you're buying this with your package, and I don't know anything. Okay. So, Express Bill Pay had given us some quotes on the online transaction stuff, okay? And I just want you to see this. In addition, Philadelphia Business Forms Company works with this accounting software program for billing, and the bottom line is you're buying this software program. That means you have to buy the hardware to go with it. Okay, we're sending out bills now. You're not sending bills out on postcards that come off of the zip typewriter type of printer anymore. Yeah, the dot matrix. So we had to buy we have to buy a new printer, that's going to be able to handle that kind of volume. And the other thing is, the way that it's going to print it out, we're going to need to buy some kind of folding machine. And there's an expense attached to this, but here's what I can tell you. we've estimated the cost of our girls printing out everybody's invoices and then folding them and sending them. It would take them twice a month, 5 days straight, to prepare invoicing. All right, so that'd be 2 people. Our cost per month, you know, at their salary to print, fold, and stuff envelopes would be $2,041 a month.
So the online solution is.
The solution is to purchase.
It's time to move into the 21st
A
century.
fold sealer machine, and they're like $3,100. So this is going to be coming to you. Actually, if you want to look at it even in more detail today and approve it, or do you want me to take it to general administration? It's up to you how you want me to handle it. But
Go to general administration to approve the machine.
This will
If you need
do-
expense approved. We'll go with the expense.
the machine would do 20 pieces a minute. We could do the whole thing in 1 day or less, as far as the whole process, rather than them spending 5 days twice a week. There's no, that's, and they'd end up killing me probably after 2 months of it. So, yeah.
What's the line item now is the expense gonna be paid for?
Well, and I haven't even gotten into that yet.
Right.
I don't know if and this is where when I said I come into it with a blind eye, in your capital expense, you do have $15,000, I think it is, for computer upgrades.
Computer upgrades.
Computer
But I don't know exactly what
All
that,
upgrades.
yeah, I don't know, well, that 5,000 was for, that's already
Your pay
Yes.
for mine.
Yeah, we have 15,000 for this year.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that's what Craig was assuming was going to be hardware to go with all of this.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
The software was paid.
Did we already pay the bill for the software program?
Yes.
Okay.
Software program's
There's
paid.
a possibility we
Extra
may
training.
owe additional depending on, and let me clarify, training, it's not necessarily training, it's all the time they need to put in, to
On-site.
inputting and uploading our information into the new software.
We may incur extra expense.
Expense
at the end of the
of-
day.
So if we were allowed
working on
72 hours for the training and installation, and it may go
Right,
above.
training
We
and.
think it's gonna go
Go
above.
above it.
He thinks, and in his words, oh, it only costs a couple thousand more.
We're gonna do a lot of inputting on our.
Yeah.
To save hours.
For us, I think the machines are definitely essential, because with everything else that they do. The real question is going to come down to, and I would recommend probably against, with the online bill pay, I would recommend strongly that we just go with the online checking bill pay and not the credit card bill pay. Because there's a significant additional expense. I'm talking like a couple dollars per transaction.
Right.
And, and I think about like, if you've ever done like 0% financing for furniture, or if you did a project with Lowe's and you paid the account online, you can't necessarily pay with a credit card. You usually have to pay with your checking account. So, when I think about that, it doesn't deter me from paying it. So doing an online checking at a cost a few cents per transaction rather than a few dollars per transaction. The more people that pay online, obviously, the less extra work we have to do on our end, the less mailing costs, because you can do online statements and those types of things. I do think that $15,000, I do think we need to add extra security to our system, which Jeff and I have been discussing quite a bit, as well as some other changes to the setup that we have there, including the website and all sorts of other things. So I think that $15,000.
That's why 15 is low.
Yeah, that 15,000 I think will be ate up this year. Just like the Chiefs budget, the 25,000 isn't even close to what he needs, but what we're going to do is phase his project in, and I know he needs a new main server system, which is going to be at least another 20,000. but that'll be in next year. We're looking at a next year project with that. And that's something that come budget time we'll talk about, but his 25,000 is really just to replace the or the desktops,
That's
yeah,
whatever they are.
yeah. And some of the other smaller hardware items. Unfortunately, the stuff adds up and lifespans are only 4 or 5 years. So, if you want to see, this is our assessment paperwork for our properties.
Oops.
If you want to see that.
No, that's,
Nice
okay, I
to-
have one of those.
But
I got mine
yeah.
too.
No, this is just for borough properties. Nice thing about it is we don't pay any taxes on it. So, but we have a property that went up by a couple $100,000.
Oh, wonderful.
I think out of all of them, maybe 3 of them went down. So we do have those values on our properties. Like I stated to you before, our recommended millage next year per Lehigh County COG it's like 4.14 mils or something like that.
And actually, they do have it already figured in at that for my 2013 bill. It's figured in at
Yep.
414,560 tax rate.
Yep. By law, you have to go down to whatever millage rate they're suggesting, but you can change it by 10% one way or the other, just in the year of the tax assessment. So like the city of Allentown, their residential values got crushed. Right? They went down millions of dollars. They will have to raise their millage of every bit of the 10%. And Emmaus are, I think we're one of maybe 3 municipalities where the values went up. And ours is probably one of the most significant as far as residential properties.
My house, I believe.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, you too, yeah.
Well, I had a gentleman in my office right before
My assessment went up, but my taxes came down.
I had a gentleman in my office right before our committee meeting, and his assessment went up by 100,000.
Yeah, mine did too.
And it is-
150.
It
Oh,
is.
good for you.
What's that? 150,000.
150.
Boy, no, don't appeal it. Don't appeal it.
You win the prize there,
But and I said to him, that's something that I'd look at appealing. And he said, "Oh no, I'm lucky it only went up by 100,000. I have this great big addition that I got all the permits, but it never got reassessed before. So,
They're not the same thing.
so hey,
Welcome.
now you're gonna pay." So.
I'm moving.
That's all I have for you. Thank you very much for having the meeting today. I do
Yeah,
have,
no, we needed to do
I
that.
do have executive session things.
I'll call a second personal appeal just in case. Personal appeal, Mr. Dodges?
That'll be it.
All right, then we'll call for an executive session at this time, dealing with contract negotiations.
No action afterwards.
No action.
No action afterwards.